nobody's always going to be on this upwards trajectory their entire life. You're going to have some dips and you're going to climb back up that hill. And when you can take a dip and get back up that hill, that's a true measure of what excellence and leadership is, because you got to be able to get down, sometimes take a fall. It might be health. It might be something that's outside of our control that takes us into a little dip, and climbing back up. When people see you climb back up, it inspires people.
Hi there. Welcome to Born to Tint with the Miller Brothers. I'm Ricky, and I'm thrilled to be here with my co-host and brother, Josh.
Get ready for an engaging ride as we share trade secrets, business tips from around the window tint industry. Today, our guests are Sid and Vijai from Genesis out of the Sacramento area. Gentlemen.
All right, my name is Sid. I'm with Genesis, formerly Genesis Window Tinting, and we're out of, again, Sacramento. We have stores in Elk Grove and Roseville, California, and we serve the greater Northern California area. We've been in the business for almost 20 years, and we're here and appreciating the opportunity to join you guys on your podcast.
My name is Vijai Malhotra, and Sid said it, we've been doing this since 2004. Definitely a little bit larger operation in our area, and we like to think that, throughout these years, we've definitely been able to learn some trade secrets and become successful with hard work and just with some evolution involved in that.
All right, so we've went to a couple different events with you, Sid. It's our first time meeting you, Vijay. In the past, we have went to other tint shops for networking opportunities and stuff like that. You were just out here for the past 2 days at our store, kind of to go over how we kind of operate or how we run our operation, how we use TintWiz itself to kind of expand our company to where it's gotten to. I have been looking forward to this, to sit down, because I've got multiple questions, because when it does come down to it, on an employee standpoint, I know that we kind of have similar amounts of employees. We have 17 working. You guys, I believe, have 20. I'm curious to know, when you guys started, how many employees you had, and then growing it to where you've gotten to right now, the challenges of managing that many people, because that's kind of where we're at the moment, where we are expanding. We're trying to get bigger. We're trying to make our blueprint bigger and bring more work in. But the workforce has always been, I think that's a common issue in the tint industry, is finding the installers or training someone up itself. So I'm curious how you kind of did it.
I'll answer one part of it. So first off, when we started, I think that we had 4 people basically when we started, and there was 4 of us got together to start, and we realized at that point that we're still developing in the business. We're still trying to become good in the business. And I think a lot of it we learned as we operated the business, but we grew from 4 to 8 because we recruited friends that we knew that at that time they were still like fresh out of high school and trying to get them involved. Of course, they were looking for jobs out of high school as well too. So we first went that direction to expand, and you had relationships with people at that point. So a relationship similar to you and your brother, or a family-based business, accountability is more being accountable to the relationship that you have with the person. And so you want to be able to perform to support them in what their endeavors are. So they know that we started a window tinting shop, and people wanted to be involved with it, of course, because they want to be a part of something that's brand new and that's opening. And also that they were loyal to us, they're loyal to supporting the operation. So in growing now, and you're expanding the people that are outside of that family or that friend basis, you have to understand that you have to motivate people. You've got to give them a clear path. You have to explain to them, what their jobs are. And it was a big learning thing for us, because it's just, we assume, because when you start with friends or family, they have your interest in mind. When you expand out of that and you're hiring people that are not inside of that circle or group, they have to understand the why and the what and the how of what they're doing. What's in it for them? Why shall they do things? I think that managing people is more of a leadership conversation versus a management conversation. I know you guys both believe in that as well too. So in learning to manage the group of employees, it was really understanding how to become better leaders ourselves. And so it's more of a looking in the mirror and understanding, okay, are you articulating what your vision is? There's several books and many different people that talk about beginning with the why. Why are we doing this? What's attracting you to work for me versus a competitor, especially when you're outside of, we're just friends, or you're my family and that's why you should work for us. That answers the question directly, but that's really where I feel growth and scaling from something that's small to something that's larger. It's really understanding the shift from managing day-to-day operations to leading whatever size of that operation may be, whether it's even just 4 or 5 people or 17, 20, 30, 40 people that you're leading at that point. Because if you're having to tell people every single time, this is what you need to do, it pulls you back into that management versus leadership. The leadership, you're developing future leaders, people that will work autonomously without you having to tell them every little thing and how to think.
No, that's definitely, I would say, a problem I would say I had, or I've been trying to correct myself. Now, when it comes down to it, how does the technical hierarchy of your company work? Because I know that's one thing I've come to find out at the size that we're at now, and what we're trying to get through is actually having hierarchy in place to where everyone knows, all right, this is your direct boss, this is your subordinate, anything, stuff like that. Because I know it's you and your brother. That's the other commonality we have between our shops. Your brother's name is Josh too. He wasn't able to make it today, but like working that close with your brother, like how does, and having two stores too, it's a completely different side to it in my eyes. Having two locations in my eyes is like, I'm good. Like, how does that necessarily break down to where everyone lies in the company? And then, like you said, accountability too, because I know me and Vijay kind of had the conversation yesterday about holding certain people accountable, and everyone has their different approach to holding people accountable, and everybody has their limit to what it's like. All right, I've given you this many tries at something, like it's multiple questions, but like the very last question of that was, at what point do you break with accountability where it's like, all right, now you're just being negligent? And it's just like, that's the other problem I'm personally having too, is like I tend to be a very open person with the fact that like I want to try to help everyone I possibly can. I don't want to just get to a point where it's like, all right, you're out of here. Like, I think there's a solution of every problem, and I have a problem, I struggle with at what point, like, all right, we're now at a point where like this isn't going to work anymore, and like cutting that tie if we bring a new hire in. And it's just like both me and Josh both have this problem. I think he would agree with it too. That when it comes down to when we bring someone new into the company, we are trying everything we can to make them fit. And instead of actually realizing at one point, like, all right, this isn't going to work no more. I'll start with, I guess, with the first part of it, working with family and the hierarchy of your company. How is working with your brother? Because I know that at times me and him want to kill each other, but we've managed.
So I'll say this. So looking at the hierarchy of the company, and to be clear, it's a three-headed beast. This is one of the heads of the beast. So Vijay is my cousin by marriage. He's actually married to my cousin, who is very much like a sister to me. And Vijay is a brother to me. We've known each other for so very long. I think you're like 15 or 14 when I met you. And then the same with Josh. Vijay and Josh were best friends from, I want to say, like elementary all the way up. And he's lived in my neighborhood, literally just right down the street, not even to run like a 7-minute run, maybe 7.5-minute run. What is it like? I mean, sometimes the hierarchy of the company. So the three of us, equal owners in the company. We focus in different areas naturally where we feel that we have the aptitudes to do so. So Vijay has always, in the very beginning, came onto the company, and V, I'm going to stop talking here, man, because I know you got a lot to say about this, but from my perspective, he came onto the company and he fit the role, especially in that time, as outside sales and inside management. And we are in a point right now where we are looking to put the right people in the right seats, and we're looking to, number two, stop being managers and replace that management person, because there's definitely someone that needs to manage or supervise and make sure everything is working the way it needs to work inside the store. But we're looking to position ourselves. Of course, we own the company, so the equity is there. But where are we the most effective? And I know that for me, I feel that leadership, absolutely, I'm effective there. But at the same time, because this is an operation that's service-based and one would almost say it's blue collar and that we're physically doing work, I'm pulled into those because that's where some of my talent is. I can do the architectural side of the business. I can do the automotive side of the business. And so I get pulled there, and naturally I want to be able to participate. I want to be able to see things because I feel as if I can be effective there. So again, as far as the structure of the company, 3 owners, we each fall into specific roles, but we're in a point right now in the business because it's scaling so quickly and it's grown, and we've literally doubled in size. So because we've doubled in size within the last 3 years since COVID, sometimes it's almost like you're a child and you're growing and you hit that growth spurt and it hurts. And it's because you're going through those growing pains, your joints, your ligaments, whatever has not caught up with the structure. So we're at that point right now where we've seen the growth and now we're adapting the structure. And there are some growing pains. We get into it from time to time, even during this trip. We got into it, but we've learned over the course of time to put the ego aside, step back and say, hey, who has my very best interest? It's this man to my left. Same with you. To your right, he has your best interest. So we look to do that, and we want to see it reflected in the structure. So if we have the best interest of the company in mind, where are our strengths, and then where do we put ourselves so we're in the right seat?
I mean, that's literally where we're at, yeah, right? So we started this business. We've obviously, when you start a business, you do everything. I ran the front to the outside sales. I used to check in the customers, pick up the phone, schedule the dealership appointments, go to the dealership and be a dealer rep, and all of these things. Go in the back, wipe up cars, clean up cars, help with details, all of the customer service. So I think as you go through this business journey you have, and a lot of us, I feel like in this industry, don't come from a business background. So you start in the business, you do all this stuff, and then you get to a certain point and it's hard to transition. It's hard to stop installing. It's hard to give away, delegate. And minus it being hard, you might not know how. So I think a big part of being successful and moving to the next step is knowledge, right? And listening to the podcast, visiting each other, listening to each other. Because, at the end of the day, our size, your size, doesn't matter. We all go through the same struggles in business. And as owners of a business, even though we might have done all of that, I might have been a leader, I might have been a manager, you have to be honest with yourself. And sometimes, like right now, what we're going through is right people in the right seat. And even me, I feel like I'm a good leader, but the big but is, if you're not tracking the results, and egos aside, even me, it's like, hey, maybe I'm not the most effective in the communication to the employees. So you need to understand that, recognize that, and then maybe I need to pass that on to Sid or to Josh, because he is better at that position. And maybe I need to focus on sales or focus on outside marketing or focus on public relations or whatever that might be. But understanding that, recognizing it, identifying it is key. Because again, we did it all, right? All of us have done, and you have this attachment to it. And it's hard to let it go. But until you understand that you have to let it go to get to the next level, and you gotta get to that uncomfortable part again, to where it was like you're learning something over again. So you have to be uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, it's something you've never experienced and you're learning, and now it's gonna make you better.
Oh no, I definitely uncomfortable. That's for a certainty. When it comes to accountability of your employees, I would say that's something that I would say that we've been talking about it forever, but we actually implemented it with you guys. Thankfully, with you guys coming out and then also Kyle coming out too, we kind of jumped and it's like, all right, we can't, and also with us doing this, just like venturing out of our comfort zone and doing this too, we can't talk about something without actually doing it. So we've just started doing a review process, which I'll let you go, because he's the one who cause I've been kind of hounding him. Like, I've been trying to hold myself accountable, and it's like, we have this many people now. We actually have to start putting things in place. And my thing is, we got to start holding everyone accountable to even the smallest little detail thing, not to just be nitpicky about things. But if we're going to keep hiring and keep growing, as we bring more people in, they're watching what everyone else is doing, because that's just human nature. As much as you tell someone, hey, here's your job, here's the outline of what your job entails. Do your job to the best of your ability. Don't worry about no one else, because it's not going to affect what happens to you in that day. It's not going to affect your pay. It's not going to affect anything. If anything, you're going to let them live rent-free in your mind, and it's going to ruin your day for no reason. If you're putting out and doing your job, that's what's going to get noticed. As much as you might think that's not getting noticed, I 100% guarantee you it gets noticed by the people up top. That's where I kind of came to that moment in my own life, my own career, where I was like, all right, the only thing I can do is come in every day, put out as hard as I possibly can, and to where I leave no question in anyone's mind that I am putting the work in from start to finish, grabbing whatever work I have to grab. If it's not even my job to do something, just do it and get it taken care of, but holding myself accountable. And now it's like I want to get everyone on board with that. So he came up with, we've been talking about it. He ended up putting through, which I'll let him explain how he came up with the reviews.
The fact that you guys were coming here for this podcast inspired me to finally take some action on it. So I was like, the great idea ever doesn't mean anything if you don't take action on it, right? So I remember we talked probably at Kyle's shop when we did the networking event there, which was a great learning event, and getting together with people that are doing something similar but in a different way. There's always stuff to be learned. We're talking about how you do monthly counselings or reviews with all your employees. Back then, even, I think I said it like, yeah, in the Army, we had a counseling statement, 4856, and it's a structured counseling statement that has who's being reviewed, who's doing the reviewing, what was supposed to happen for the month, what did happen, what was good about it, what were the deficiencies, what's the plan of action to correct it. And ChatGPT is a thing now. And I finally just sat down and was like, it took me like less than 10 minutes. I asked ChatGPT, do you know what a DA 4856 is? And it said, yes. And then it gave me a full description of it. I was like, hey, can you make a version of that I could use in my business? No problem. Boom. Done. Copy, paste, put it into a Google Doc, spend a couple minutes polishing up, changing a couple things, show it to Ricky. All right, cool. Like within 10 minutes, he had my review and Brennan, our shop manager's review done. And before the end of the day, he executed and did our reviews for the month. And now I've got all of mine done for my guys for the month, which are sitting in a stack at the shop. And we didn't have everybody there today. Some guys were out on jobs. So first thing Monday, I'm going to knock all those out for August. And it's already set up. I've used it before. I was in the military long enough and I had to do it every single month for all of my soldiers. And it's just like, okay, all right, we already know how to do that. Let's put it down into some structure. And now we've got a physical sheet of paper that we took time and effort to let them know what they did well, what was supposed to happen, what went wrong, what we expect to change if there were things that need to be fixed, which there's always going to be, right? But now that's like clear cut. This is what it is. We're actually going to sit down because we already do these things, right? We talk with our people and tell them what they've been doing good and what they need to fix. But actually having it in a formal setting, as I know something you said you've done for a while and you've seen good success with it. And it's like, all right, we need to do that at this scale. If we're going to scale up, when it's only a handful of people, you can manage just the casual, like tightening it up as it goes. But as we get more and more people and we get bigger teams, I've got 7 total people in the architectural division now. And we're structuring it in a way now, like you said, people in roles. I can tint cars, I can do PPF, I can do all that. So we've been going through that same process. I run the architectural division now, and I've got people that I'm training up. One of them's getting close to ready to be in a position where he's already kind of doing it, and I'm letting him slowly do it step by step, where he can manage a crew of guys and go out and get most jobs done on his own. I want to train him. This is something I learned in the military. When every rank structure in the military, like as you go up in rank, your job isn't to get the mission done. Your job is to train your people to replace you. And then the person in charge of you's job is to train you to replace them and to take care of you. And like, it works so well. Like, all right, that's what we need to do. Like, my job is to teach you how to do everything that I can do so I don't get sucked back into doing the installs. Like, I like doing them, I enjoy doing them, but I serve the company better now training you guys how to do it, or marketing, or the things that I like to do. Listening to you guys talk is hilarious because it's like listening to us talk about stuff, man. Like, all right, who wants to be in which role and what are you best suited at? And like, because if you come to work every day and you're doing something you don't want to do, who wants to do that?
Minus that, and on accountability real quick. So our other partner, Josh, he's the best. Minus that he's really been putting emphasis on making sure these meetings happen. Because see, the thing is, we know this, right? And you know this, you make the form, you do all this, you might even set the date. But what happens? We all know, especially when you work in the business, someone calls out. You're gonna go do that, and now that review, that monthly review, you're not gonna do it. You're gonna put emphasis on the job, on everything else that's important. But what Josh is doing that is so key is he very much will emphasize, hey, this is more important and I need to have these meetings. And so putting the value on those meetings to be even bigger than maybe getting a job done is very important, because without those people, again, we create it, we do all of it, but if you're not staying on top of it, I've noticed something with myself over the years in accountability, and we're talking about actually structuring it to where it's a formal setting. I would go out, I might make a comment, I might say something, you might be passive aggressive even when you're saying it, right? Because you don't want to be that ass. But when you think about it, in that setting, it's not effective. When you actually pull somebody aside, you sit down, you look at them, you talk to them, you ask questions. Now that's a real conversation. They feel valued, they feel like you're actually listening to them, and hopefully you are, and you're taking notes. And that's the biggest difference too. But being accountable yourself and holding yourself accountable, that's one thing I have learned through my journey of being an owner, is I used to think I was a good manager. And I realized I was a terrible manager, and I still have a lot of room to grow and learn, because if I'm not the best me and I'm not holding myself accountable, how do you hold everybody else accountable?
1000%, man. It's the same thing with kids, right? Like, I remember when I was 240 pounds out of shape, not going to bed because I was staying up all night watching TV and trying to tell my kids to go to bed early, right? But as soon as I got on the health Jones and started like realizing if I want to run so many miles because I want to run an ultra marathon, I better be in bed by 7:30. I start going to bed early, and now like they want to get tucked in still. And like, if I'm going to bed before them, well, I'll go to bed now. And now all of a sudden they're like volunteering to go to bed early. And it's like, lead by example. That's like the truest thing ever. If you're not leading by example, people aren't going to follow you. Or they're going to follow the example you're setting, right? Like,
They will follow you. You just said it right there. They're going to follow the wrong direction, and they'll resent you. And they'll build resentment because they don't have leadership. Everybody, I say this all the time, and I mean it, and sometimes it's taken the wrong way. Everybody wants to be in a gang. You want to be around your people. You want to be around people like you. When you're in, and when I say like you, they don't have to look like you. They don't have to think exactly like you, but they have to be like you. When you're in the military, you're in the army, right? You were around people like you. They had the same routine. They woke up around the same time. They didn't have maybe the exact same assignments, but they understood what they were doing and the purpose of what they were doing. They knew who to speak to if they had a problem. So the consistency falls in place. When people want to be a part of something, throughout the course of human history, we survive because we find tribes. We find people like us. We find our people. And if we're not like those people, we get eaten or we're traded off or we no longer have value. So we want to find value. And how do you find value? Find value by saying, hey, this is what you do, and this is how I measure you for what you do. Hence the monthly or the quarterly or the meetings. If there's not a target and there's not something that you're holding someone to, like a standard, then they don't know how well they're doing. So they're misguided. So going back to like that tribe, they're misguiding. What do I contribute to my tribe? Do they know that I contribute anything to the tribe? And if no one is regularly reinforcing that, hey, we met last month, this is what we spoke about, this is where it's at, you're resetting them. And then the other benefit to that is you're getting in front. You're not getting blindsided by things that are coming up. What if you haven't spoke to them for 2 months and little do you know that this primary installer that you have has been dreaming of moving out of state or dreaming of, I can't wait to have another baby, or some major life change is happening, or maybe they have another aspiration or a hobby that they're going to get into. It's not to say you don't want to hold people back. You want to support their life. You want to hopefully help lead. But the same token, if you don't have that regular communication, you'll get blindsided by something. And then if they don't have a platform to be able to speak to you as one person, I've said, like Vijay said, set aside the time, and like what you're doing, set aside this time. It's as important as that very next job, or even more important of that very next job. And it's going to be half an hour, wherever the case is. Sit down. Maybe the first time goes over that time because there's so much that you haven't had a chance to discuss. But the next time, we're going to discuss the exact same things every single time.
Yeah, that's what I loved about that form. It's built to follow up with. You got to take last month's, pull it out, and you literally go over, okay, this is what we said we were going to do, what we do. Then you do the next month's. It leads with what did they do right. So I'm not coming in and just hammering them with the things they need to fix. Like, leads with the things that they did right. Then, okay, now we've got these other things. It's funny you talked about like it gets pushed off, because I've got those printed, dated, sitting on my desk, and it didn't happen today because of everything going on. So now when I go back and have to do it next week, I got to reprint them out.
And then real quick, what it comes even back to is I remember Josh and I handle like vinyl, right? And I mean, we all do, but I kind of handle that. And I remember Josh always saying, hey, V, you need to meet with the guys. And I wasn't, right? I wasn't making it happen. And now we've actually came to the conclusion that Josh is probably the best guy to do that. And I agree with him. They're more receptive. He's really good leader. So I think you should do that. And he even said, I think I should do that. And not having an ego in this, not saying, oh, I can't lead or I can't do whatever. I have no ego in it. I understand it. I recognize it. And I'm like, yeah, man, hey, let's try this. Because if what we have been trying isn't working, well, and nothing will change if you don't change anything, right? So you have to change something if what you want to be different needs to be different. So
that was probably our biggest problem. It's something I've mentioned over and over again. And I know that I'm already losing leadership credit within the company because I keep mentioning it and it's just not happening. I'm not doing my job. I don't hold anyone else to fault. It's my fault. Get overwhelmed when it comes down to it. You have projects lining up and then you have either then customers, things happen and then it gets completely diverted. And then all of a sudden it's been 2 weeks. 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, I told all my employees, which it's like, I think about it now, I'm just like, God, it's already been a couple months and I've already told them like this was going to happen and it still hasn't happened. And now that like, thankfully we got the sheet produced and it's like, we had a couple of disagreements for these like past 2 weeks about how small things are kind of slipping. And then like, thankfully he came to me, he's like, here, I just did this. I looked at it, it's perfect, let's just roll with it. Because our biggest problem is we will talk about something and try to perfect and before implementing. And I've had that issue constantly. And it's an issue technically that my brother, like even my sister, we sit there and try to perfect it. And finally we're jumping into it. Like time we do it too. The same thing with Tintless. We had Tintless for probably about almost a year maybe. And we were using just the inventory part of it. We were using another programs with it. And we were just kind of using it for inventory because we have, as you guys saw, we buy our house and we buy in bulk. Even our car film, we buy in bulk too. It's something my dad's kind of always done. where sale goes on, we had the capital, buy at a discount to where if we ever had to compete when it comes to pricing and stuff, like we have wiggle room if we ever need it. So when we have that much inventory, we have cameras up and stuff like that, but it's just so much easier if you have a system where it goes into, like, when anyone comes ordering, like all of a sudden I'll get told like, oh, hey, we're out of this film. I'm like, well, that would have been nice to know if someone had told me. Like, so now I can go into my system. Now that we have our system like set up and we're going with it, I can go in there, I can look like, all right, we're down to this many rolls, like we need to order. Which even with that's even involved too, to where it's got to the point where I told both Josh and our auto manager, Brendan, like, if you guys are at a point where you're low on something, your eyes are on this stuff constantly. Take a look at it, just order it. And now if your order is going to exceed this certain value amount, let me know. And then we'll run it through budgeting, run it through my sister, make sure like, okay, yeah, we can do that. Let's do it. Let's order now. We need to resupplement. But if it's something where a certain roll is getting lower, just here, you do it. Yeah, I'm giving you the power to do it. It's like always something I always grip on, but we're slowly evolving with that now. And that's the same thing with the reviews itself too. We were trying to, I don't think it ever got implemented because we were always trying to find the perfect way to do it, how we would set it up. But now we're starting to, with as many employees we've brought on now with the onboarding of 2 or 3 new guys in the past 2 years, that it's now at a point where it's like, I can't, or I shouldn't, you can only manage so many people at once effectively. And now we're at a point where it's like, all right, I need to empower you guys. I need to stop stepping on your toes, to where now with the reviews that he brought to us, it's like, all right, I'm going to review you, Brendan, and I'm going to review with my sister and then our salesperson. So I got 4 people and I have to do my job. And like, if I see something I don't think is going right, I always caught myself where I would say something out in the open. And like, and I know too, like saying something in the open, you can say as nice as you want. When you're calling someone out in front of other people, it's not effective.
A good example of this is social media. I've been on Instagram since 2013, and my brother would always tell me, he's like, I bass fish. I would tournament fish a lot, and I love that. And I would take tons of pictures, tons of video, and you would want to edit it, you would want to take the pictures right. But he would always tell me, just post it. It doesn't matter. You want the followers, you want to gain the steam. He's like, don't worry about it being perfect, V. Just post the picture, just post. It's all about how much you're posting to gain that. It's just about keep the content coming because people want more and more and more content. It's not about being perfect posts. It's about just post it and keep that momentum going. And then it'll become perfect. Yeah, over time, you will work it out and you will make it perfect.
There's 2 things that you said that stood out to me, right? I want to first commend you on this because I know how difficult it is to do. Because for myself, to empower someone else, when it's yours, and you said it, V, when it belongs to you, to let that little baby take the first step, like, oh, no, be careful. They got to fall. They got to make a mistake. And I've realized that I've held people back unintentionally and held them back to the point where, and this is in the past, hopefully I've grown from that and I'm no longer doing that now. But I think that, again, the monthly check-ins and you have people away from what they're doing. It's not just a quick little comment. You pull them away from what they're doing. You formally sit them down. The attention's on them. And that maybe you can get some of that feedback. Like, hey, I feel like I want to do this, and everybody has different communication style, right? So getting that platform is good. But to commend you on giving people the power to do that, like ordering, I didn't let nobody order. Like when it came to ordering, I knew how to order and it had to be at this dollar amount. We get the free shipping, we get this, and I don't order too much. But why? We had the capital. You can order an extra box. It's just like whatever the case is. But the whole point is that doing that, I commend you on that because I know it's tough to do. And I struggle with that myself, to be able to trust people. And it wasn't just ordering. It's a multitude of different things in the company that I still know I got to train them into my role, right? I got to work myself out of my job if I want to see growth. Not for them, for me. I will not grow personally unless I can work myself out of what I'm doing, right? And then with that being said, I'm also training the next person and trying to find the right person for my seat to be able to do what I do. And it's not like you leave them to drown, you're still going to work with them and help develop them as a person. That was the one point, was the empowerment that you're doing there. The other point that I had was just the consistency of the meetings and just making sure not to prioritize other things over those meetings, because the staff, they're looking forward to it, right? So what we think about, and it just happened to us. So you said this morning or yesterday it happened to you. It was Wednesday before we left to fly out here to Henderson. We're in the office, and of course, Kyle came to come visit our store, Kyle and Adam, and they're in our store. And now they're waiting on us to get ready to leave. And Josh and I had promised, there was two things that happened. First of all, Josh, Vijay, and I, Kyle and Adam, were going to have a debrief. And so because of so many things going on at the same time, we weren't able to make that happen. which was going to be very important. Of course, we haven't missed that opportunity. We'll still make that happen. But there was 2 employees that we had to meet with. And so the first day, there was so much things going on the Tuesday. Kyle was there the Monday, the Tuesday. We left on Wednesday to come out here. But the Monday was just a busy day. We said, hey, we will meet on Tuesday and we'll discuss this issue that you guys have going on that you want to talk to us about. If you even consider that, someone who works for you is saying, hey, I want to meet with you to discuss something that's going on in your company. It's huge. They want to meet with me to tell me about something, but it's not important. And that's really the message that's given. It's not important enough for me to hear what you have to say. So we did eventually, on that Wednesday, I saw him, I walked out. We kind of have a shorter day, so I had a bye. There was a pass there. But if it happens again and again and again, then there goes that I may think that, hey, I'm doing the right thing, I'm leading, but my credibility as a leader goes down when I miss that meeting.
Right? Because you're going to take the value away from them. And then on top of that, just to say, one thing also comes in the way we talk and the words we use. Psychology is big. And these guys that have been with us and I know who you're talking about, I don't even look at them as employees, they're my team members. Because, man, they've been with us for how many years? 5, 10, 15 years, man. Like, I truly and genuinely, honestly care about these guys. And I think, as leaders, it's hard to have them understand how much we care, and that even when we want to hold them accountable. And it's not that we want to hold you accountable like that, but it's like, 'cause we just care so much. It's difficult because everybody's so different. But I just wanted to bring that up because, as the seats we sit in, we got to remember, for at least the way I feel, and I know you feel this way, and Josh, our guys have been with us so long. Like, I care about these guys. We're part of a team. I always say that. Like, we are a team. It doesn't matter what I do. I can sell everything in the world, but I'm not installing it. You can install everything. Well, who's selling it? Who's doing the background stuff? Who's doing all of these things? So it really is a team, and that's one thing too, understanding that and using the right words in these sit downs, right? And letting them understand as well that that's how I feel. We are a team, where just like I want to talk to you and you want to help me, I want to be able to do the same for you, and having that open dialogue.
That's where I would say that's been my biggest, I guess I'll categorize as a failure for me, is like right now because we have so much new blood in the company with my dad, with the unfortunate health of him having stroke, kind of stepping away from the company. Our big thing is we've been trying to change, and I believe I would think that we're changing the culture in our company. Growing up in the industry, I would say most old school tinters or most people that have been in the industry long enough understand the fact, like when I say back in the day, like about 15 years ago, 20, pretty cutthroat industry. Like there was no helping. Like the social media movement that's kind of happened in our industry is kind of showing like you don't need to fight with the other store or in your town, let alone the guy who's in a different state. Like we can all help each other. That's the main reason. Kyle getting us together. Like originally you and Kyle getting together, having that networking thing, and then I met Kyle, and then he brought us into the fold, and now we've had that event at Kyle's place. Now we just had you and Kyle out here, seeing all the growth from that. My struggle is right now what I'm having with is we've had like my higher up guys in the company. So technically like my managers or the people that have longest tenure in the company, they've seen the past company, and it's like, and also they've seen the past me too. So they've seen my evolution and my growth within the company, but at the same time, they've seen my mistakes as being a manager, because like in my eyes, this is my second go of trying to run the company when it comes down to, because when my dad was in place and when he was working, I was say lead installer or say lead manager, where people would kind of come to me where I thought I could solve issues by trying to side skirt the hard conversation and then try to put them both in a position where it's like, okay, well, if they both understand this thing, they're going to then work their own thing out together instead of just sitting down and having the hard conversation. And doing that so many times in a row with those people, it gets to a point, it's like, well, I can tell them right now, like, hey, this is what we're going to do from this point forward. But I have no credibility to stand on it right at the moment, because it's like, well, we've heard this for the past 10 plus years. So how are we going to trust that's going to happen? So like, that's where the impasse I'm at right now, where I love the fact of the review that he came up with. I love how it is, because it's like, okay, I am now at a point where I need to let go of everything else below me. Besides, I'm going to worry about my managers. If I see anything else besides my managers, like something happening with their guys, I need to make sure I don't step on their feet and I need to pull them aside and let them know. Cause I've already, like, the first meeting I had with him and Brendan, like, we just did the review, and I told him, like, all right, I want to do the review with both you guys in the room. And if, like, anytime they want to speak separately with me, they know they can. But because they're two different departments, I want both my managers sitting down together so I can bounce ideas off of them, and then also go at them with the fact, like, all right, this is the things I'm seeing here and there, so they can either help each other out too. But it's like, I've already told both of them, like, if I see anything below you, I know it's not you doing it, but I'm holding it to you. I'm saying it's your fault when it comes down to it. Just like if something happens, if you guys aren't executing, it reflects on me. Everything kind of reflects back onto me, you know, when it does come down to it. Like, that's, I mean, Jocko, like, he's the one who got me into Jocko, like, into extreme ownership. Like, that book changed my perspective on business so much. Because when it comes down, and this is another question I will have too, is at what point is it not your fault when it comes down to it? I get that kind of see, well, that's where I agree with that, is when it does come down to it, if anything goes wrong below me, doesn't matter at what level it goes wrong, it's my fault. It's 100% my fault, because obviously I didn't give the intent that was needed, or explain the intent I wanted behind that to my manager, and that part that did not get passed along down to the installer or whoever else. So it always reflects back onto me, and I get that kind of said to me in the fact, like, well, no, they need to take care of their business. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, that person needs to take care of their business. But at the same time, if it wasn't explained, and it's like, I explained it to this person, did I explain it good enough to make sure that they pass it along to them or not? And if I can't answer yes to that, or it doesn't get done, obviously I didn't.
Harsh on yourself, because you have been the glue of actually holding us accountable on a lot. The fact that we now have systems in place, like using TintWiz and notes and tasking, and you holding everybody accountable to use that, has been a huge part of our growth. And the taking ownership piece goes all around, right? So, like, everybody needs to take ownership. I mean, the beginning of Jocko's book, just read that first chapter, and you can't have a better scenario or story ever on that, right? But it's funny is I'm now hearing other people kind of say the same thing in other ways. Alex Hormozy right now, because this is like what you were just saying before that too, kind of ties in. I was thinking about it. Take action. Like, make a decision. Like, if the guy down the road, or they're taking a week to make a decision that, or maybe it took us 2 years to finally decide to execute on making this form, like, the person that's saying, no, okay, we're going to do it today. We're going to do it right now. Execute. Get it done. Prioritize and execute. Like, prioritize and execute, and Alex Hormozy is saying make a decision right now, today, and then make another decision tomorrow, is the same thing.
With us, there's three of us. And when we make a decision, man, it's tough, right? There's three of us.
Analysis paralysis. You think about it, you want to perfect it. And again, I'll tell you one thing. Walking into your shop, I can see the respect that you command in your shop, period. And maybe it's because we're there. I don't care. But what I perceive, and it's just not visual, it's just what I feel. I just want to let you know, I feel that way. You know, I feel as if you are, it's showing. It's showing in your presence. And we're not perfect. It's the pursuit of what we could be, that perfect image that we have of ourselves. It's constantly pursuing that and enjoying that pursuit. It's not always fun, but it's the pursuit. You know, you can definitely perfect something. It will, or you could chase the perfection of something, but it'll never be exactly perfect. Because once you get to that point, now your eyes are above, and you can see further how you can even get better, you know? So that's something that you'll constantly chase. One thing that you mentioned, I just wanted to highlight as well too, is the way in which we all interact with people when it comes to counseling. You know, you want to praise people in public. We've all heard this saying. And then you want to counsel in private. So in public, great job, wonderful, and not fake. You know, you've got to be genuine. You can't be like, oh, that's a great window. They've done 10 windows all week long. But one thing that I saw in your form, it showed the number of jobs, right? The dollar value. It's the collaboration, man, between you guys. Putting the dollar value, the number of jobs, these type of things, the least number of redos or whatnot. You're watching. That's praising them. That's telling them, you're not just here slaving away for me. I'm watching what you do. I appreciate what you do. You intentionally started with the positive praise. I mean, that's huge. It's great. It reinforces the value that you have. You put it on paper. You paid attention to it, and that's where you started. I would say definitely those two things, that I can see that leadership coming through. When it comes to tarnishing your reputation and coming back from reputation, man, we've all been there, you know, especially when it comes to business owners and just life in general. Nobody's always going to be on this upwards trajectory their entire life. You're going to have some dips, and you're going to climb back up that hill. And when you can take a dip and get back up that hill, that's a true measure of what excellence and leadership is. Because you got to be able to get down, sometimes take a fall. It might be health. It might be something that's outside of our control. that takes us into a little dip and climbing back up. When people see you climb back up, it inspires people, even if it's not even within your team at that moment when they're hitting that position. Or maybe it's a story that they'll tell, like, oh man, I work with Ricky, I work with Josh, and those guys, they did this. You might not see it today or tomorrow, but it definitely, it's a testament to where you've been and how you're developing yourself.
I've definitely seen that at work with like new hires. Like they meet Ricky today, they don't see the old baggage, and then I show them a video of Ricky 5 years ago, and they're like, what? Like, who is that person? Like, but it's like, that's inspiring. Like you said the word inspire, like for real, like leading by example, and actually like, okay, if he could do it, I can do it.
And even just, and that's why you got to look at your association and kind of who you're with when you're a leader. You're not discriminating of like, hey, this guy doesn't own this or he works here. No, we're all men. We're all pushing forward. We're all human beings and we're on this planet Earth doing our thing. But I'll tell you, when I first met Kyle, when I first met you guys, I didn't know anything of the past. You know what I mean? I just saw you for who you are today, right? And what you were doing at that moment, what you were talking, what were you representing, what you about at that moment in your lives. And that was inspiring to me, is what I saw at that point, and it inspired me. I kid you not. You guys don't know that your journey and them tats you got on the back of your calf. You remember when I asked you about that when we were in Orlando? And that inspired me. I came back and I told my brother, I was like, man, I'm running 1 mile a day. I was like, man, I thought that I got up in Orlando. I was like, yeah, you guys, I just ran this mile. And then here goes Josh talking about he went down to the local studio and he's rolling with somebody. And Ricky's talking about, yeah, I just ran 6, 7, 8 miles. I didn't feel small because of you guys. I looked in the mirror and I asked myself, what am I doing? Right? It had nothing to do with you. It's just that I understood what was possible. And your employees do the same thing. They may not say it to you, right? But at some point, they're going to look in the mirror and they're going to say, what is possible? And it goes both ways, because when you slide backwards, right, they also see that as well too, right? So no matter what, we're held to a higher standard. As a parent, you're held to a higher standard. As a leader in a company, you're held to a higher standard, you know? And then another level on top of that, when you work within family, you hold your family to a higher standard than you will someone else. And sometimes it's unreasonable. Sometimes it's unreasonable, but it's needed. And if it doesn't kill you, it makes you better.
I'm not perfect. I'm still growing. I definitely have deficiencies, and like that's the whole point, man.
I'm guilty of that tremendously, in the fact, unfortunately, that I try not to act in it or treat anyone differently. But yeah, I'm very guilty in the fact of holding him to an extremely high standard, because as an installer and everything else that he brings to the table, I know what he can do. And also like he inspires me too. Like when it comes, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be where I'm at right now without him. Like got me into the books that changed my life. Like showed me a different perspective on everything. And then like, yeah, I had to put my foot forward, but like he showed me the path. And then like we definitely bounce off each other when it comes down to it. We used to yo-yo back and forth. It would be like, I kind of got a little healthy, he'd lose his way. And then I'd lose my way, he'd get extremely healthy. And then we finally got kind of on the same page. Like he started me on my journey of running when it came down to it. But yeah, no, I'm very guilty of holding him to a different standard. You guys find yourself having that same problem working with your brother? And I mean, when it comes down to, like you said, like you guys are pretty much like 3 brothers running the company. Do you find yourself running into that constantly?
I appreciate it first. And yes, definitely there's been times since that moment that you holding me accountable has kept me from totally falling off the rails and not running at all. And like the fact that I'm even running again right now is because you were like, hey, we're doing this 100-miler. So I wouldn't be running as much as I am right now if it wasn't for you. So it's equal back and forth, man.
And the other thing, the one benefit I'd say of working with family is that I don't want to disappoint him, right? I want to, and when it comes to my brother, I know he works so hard and he's a lifeblood, and that like you call Ricky the glue, you know what I mean? And I'll tell you is that Josh is the glue, but as am I, as is Vijay. You know, we all contribute to this and we don't want to let each other down. So yeah, we hold each other to a higher standard, but rightfully so. You know, I don't want to be held to this standard. Hold me to a standard I can't reach, because I'm going to keep trying and climbing to that standard. And then when I say employees, right, because I think everybody can relate to that, but I say, and Vijay used the word team members, but the people that we are leading, when we hold ourselves to high standards, they know that, they see that, you know, and at one point and different points in my life, I would believe that maybe that standard is tough or it's unattainable, but now I don't believe so. And I've had a shift in my mindset. And I got to call out, man, and your podcast listening. At one time, yeah, I can't remember if it was when we first met in Kyle's deal and when we first really got acquainted, I won't say first met, but when we really got acquainted. I don't know if it was then or if it was in Orlando. You guys were talking about Jocko, right? And so I listened to different podcasts and definitely all self-improvement, personal improvement. And the first time I listened to Jocko, man, almost put me to sleep. I'm listening. I was like, man, this is like a bedtime story. I'm just going to take, but then put it on 2X. And I remember the first time I listened to, just speeding it up. Everybody has a different way and style of what they want to listen to. And I started listening to content because at first I was like, man, is this just all military and like battle readiness? Like, I don't need to listen to that. And humility, stepping back to say, am I really choosing to be the better person I can be? Obviously, there's something that you guys have got out of it. Something. Let me do the same. And now he's on my rotation, just so you know. So that's from nobody else but from the Green Valley Brothers, just so you know.
Well, what's funny is you were just talking about like you didn't realize what was possible and then just seeing it. Like the reason we even named this Born to Tint was the book that inspired me way back before I could ever inspire him to run was Born to Run. And it was a book I read because somebody told me, like, because I just run a half marathon at Fort Hood and was like, I need to go get better running shoes because I'd never run that far in my life. And was like, that was fun though. Like, I'm going to do more long distance running. And the guy at the shoe store, it's like, you got to read this book, Born to Run. I was like, all right, cool. I read it. And it talks about people running 100-mile races. And I was like, people can do that? Like, that's possible? And it's like, most people think like running a 5K or a marathon is some like huge life achievement, which it is, right? But like, soon as the idea was in my head that like, oh, that's even possible, like my whole scale of what's possible in training and got me on a journey of learning to run and like how I feel better when I go on a run and just pushing myself. It's just funny how the weirdest little things can inspire something and then be a little seed for something else. And that's kind of why we're doing this right here. Like what we've learned from you, hopefully what you've learned from us, like we can now share it. Come in and be in our shop for 2 days. I know it was only 2 days. I want critiques of things you're seeing us do that we could do better. That's like, I was really excited to have you guys in there because I know you guys run a very legit operation and have very high standards. What did you see us doing and how could we improve upon those things you saw that we could probably tighten up?
I have a lot of praise. To start with, I had a lot of praise. Like, I felt, number one, I felt welcomed when I walked in. I was telling this to Kyle. In fact, last night we were having dinner. We're sitting down. And I said, he asked me a similar question about your store. I said, well, number one, I felt welcomed. I believe we were on the schedule too, right? Kyle and Adam were on the schedule, and my guys welcomed them. I think that we would not have been able to observe and see the things that we saw unless we were welcomed. So I want to thank you guys for that. And everybody in your store treated us with respect. It was just like behind the scenes, Everybody's in their PJs, not literally, but figuratively. Everybody's in their PJs. That nothing is being really hidden that I could perceive, I will say that something that we are developing right now that I think that you guys should do, unless I did not see it, is identify what your mission statement is and your values, your core values. I was reading a book, man, if it doesn't come to me very quickly, the EOS, I think is Gene Wickman. And in the EOS, basically, you're going to start with your core values. There's definitely an order of operation in terms of implementing structure into a company. And you could call it the EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. That's one of, I'm sure, many, many, many. And you're probably doing it already, just in a different form without the label. But the key thing that I saw, that I was in a car dealership back in Sacramento that's well known in the area. And the owner of that dealership is actually running for Senate. And they have a great reputation. And I saw their customer service. And I realized, like, man, I'm just beside myself on how I'm being treated here, even as a vendor here. And I saw their missions, or not their mission statement, but their core values. And it was written up not only for their employees to see, but for their customers to see. And that's reinforcing, because when you have a core values, if you guys are not there, what do we fall back on? Well, we fall back on our training. And then what do we fall back on there? We fall back on our culture. And if the culture doesn't have rules to the culture, then that's basically like the core values. Like, what does the United States stand for? Freedom, right? And that's probably the first thing that will come. That's one of the core values of the country is freedom. period. That's what America stands for. When you go to another country and you talk about, well, I believe in freedom, might look at you cross-eyed because maybe that's not their core value. Core value in this country is freedom. So the same thing is that what's the core value in Green Valley? What's the core value in Genesis? I bet you if I talk to you privately, you'll give me your 4, 5, 7 core values, and you will give me the same ones, maybe not with the same names, but can your staff recite those core values? Do they believe in them? I'll tell you right now, VJ, Josh, we have not established and put them up, but we understood. Right now we're in the process of a business development with business coaches as well too, to help us develop these things. And that's one of the things with scaling, you go so fast. And the things that naturally happen when you're small and family-based, and we're still family-based, but smaller scale, you take for granted things that you talk about all the time. It's not written, it's an unwritten rule that that's in his heart and it's in your heart too. But how do you get things into your heart? Repetition, repetition, repetition. You're reading it, you're seeing it, you're seeing it.
No, I love that. And it's so funny how much we think so much alike, man. I used ChatGPT recently and wrote up a mission statement and sent it to these guys. And it didn't even need a second draft. It was yeah, we love it. But we haven't put it up anywhere. We haven't shown it to anybody. We haven't done anything with it.
From a sales side, and I'll talk to you guys afterwards too. From a sales side, first impression, just what I think. I love to do sales, and I really do, and I really think how customer thinks, psychology, all of it. And I would change some things up when you first walk in the door and what you see and how you feel. And I'm saying that from our own experience, because we had a shop that was smaller. We had a shop that was a different feel when you walk in versus now when you walk into our shop in Elk Grove, our customers I get compliments every day. I say, wow, it's just, there's different things that I think you guys can do that'll definitely get that wow factor, that instantaneous, you don't even have to sell. The value is there. It's like an Apple store. When you walk into an Apple store versus a Metro store or whatever, big differences. And investing in that, I think will help immediately in your sales and the trust factor. And the value of being able to, if you did raise your prices, the customers understand more of why. The value's already there. But that's just something quick from a sales.
The fact that we were able to extend from doing it at Kyle's, now you guys coming out here, definitely the next one's got to be out there. We're definitely gonna, obviously, we'll keep connected. Appreciate you being on one of the beginning episodes of the podcast, and we will definitely be doing this again.
I'd like to do a follow-up after we implement some of the things that we do and we have a debrief. Do a follow-up, hold each other accountable, talk about how it worked, how it didn't work, and what we learned,
Definitely. We really appreciate you guys, man. Honestly, it helps, as an owner business, you're doing so long, it helps light that fire sometimes too, man, because we all need it. At the end of the day, we all need that fire. Get some more fuel in there sometimes, man, because you'll get complacent, you'll fall in the day-to-day, but, this helps and it motivates you and it wants you to strive to be better.
All right, we'll see you then. There we go.
Thanks for tuning in to Born to Tint. Remember, our community thrives on your involvement, so please hit that subscribe button.
Keep tinting and keep dreaming big. We'll catch you on the next episode of Born to Tint with the Miller Brothers.